Hello and welcome to the Hidden Tracks podcast. My name's Shane Murphy. Here again, I am your host. Today I have a very special guest, Adam Streicher, from formerly of the Molotov Cocktails, currently of We Are Dogs. And him and I are going to dive into some stuff today. We're going to start talking. We're going to do what we always do. And we're just going to have a lot of fun talking about music. So please listen. If you have any feedback about what we're talking about, what we're doing, you know where to reach us. Twitter, Facebook, all that cool shit. So Adam, thank you so much for coming here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Shane.
So I always start this with the simplest of questions to get everything going.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a child, all you hear is theme songs from cartoons.
Right.
You hear Sesame Street, you hear Barney songs, but there's a moment in your life where things just change. Do you remember that moment in your life where all of a sudden you realized that music was different? Like it changed your way. Like you heard a song when you were a kid and you're like, wow, I don't know what is this? What is this magic going on? Do you remember when that happened to you?
It would be funny if it was the theme to the Ghostbusters cartoon after all that. But I actually have two, I think, because I don't know chronologically which one came first. But Ferris Bueller's Day Off, when he sings Twist and Shout in the parade.
Yeah.
And Back to the Future, when Marty McFly plays Johnny B. Good at the dance. I watched a lot of movies when I was a kid. I was always just in like a fantasy world.
Well, that was a big thing too growing up. I mean, soundtracks were legit. And when I say legit, soundtracks in the 80s and 90s were literally albums that were more coveted than the actual
How about the
records.
The 89 Batman Prince album?
Yeah. I mean, it's all done by Prince. It's just a Prince record. Album. Yeah. So so as a kid, you heard that and that just changed your attitude towards like, what is this other stuff out there?
Yeah, it was twofold, because the Ferris Bueller one is that it was my introduction to the Beatles.
Okay.
So just like hearing that Beatle energy that just washes over Beatles fans when they hear it for the first time. That was like the galvanizing point for that. But with Back to the Future, with the Johnny B. Good scene, I think it was genius that they put like he just like mimicked every like legendary guitarist that would do something wacky with their guitar. Like he did Pete Townsend, he did Jimi Hendrix, he does Eddie Van Halen. Like, you know what I mean? He goes through all the motions.
Did the Buddy Holly, the original, he shook his hips like Elvis.
Yeah, the whole thing. He does the whole thing. So it's just like, it was like a 2.5 minute rock and roll history lesson, right?
Yeah.
So like you see that in that movie, like you love that character. And I'm like, oh man, I want to do that. Like I always just had a fantasy of grabbing a guitar and hopping up on any stage that I saw from that moment on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, there's like a badass guitar moment.
Yeah, you want to be a performer. It made you want to be a performer.
And those two things, it's guys performing rock and roll getting an awesome reaction from an audience.
Yeah.
And it was mesmerizing as like a 4-year-old kid or whatever it was, you know?
So where did that lead you to next? If that's what you remember was like your first music, what was the first thing that like you started to gravitate towards after that? Like as a little kid, you hear that. I don't talk about this on the show yet because one day I'm going to ghost myself and I'm going to have my own interview and tell people all the answers to the questions that I've been asking everybody else. But there's certain things like I remember when it happened to me, and then I remember what path it led me on.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know how that's escalated from there? Like how that little path started pushing you towards? Where'd you go next?
So from there, when I heard Twist and Shout for the first time, I was watching the movie with my mom. I immediately turned to her and I was like, "Who is this? This is magical." And she's like, "Oh, it's the Beatles. You never heard of the Beatles?" I'm like, "Mom, I'm 4." So obviously, like my dad had a huge record collection, so I go through all his records. And he was always getting fleeced in trades. He would like trade his younger brother records, and he would wind up with like a couple Kenny G records for the White Album or something. Yeah. He's always getting fleeced. Yeah. I'm like, Dad, I know you used to have
trading Rubber Soul for Gordon Lightfoot's.
He's like, your mom loves that album. I'm like, oh, okay. So he did have Abbey Road. So he made me a tape of Abbey Road. Which would become my favorite album of all time. Like the drum sounds on that album And it's funny too, like having listened to it on a cassette tape and on like a Walkman all those years. It's like that's how that was meant to be played, like in like little crappy headphones. And I still like anytime I record drums, I'm always striving for that drum sound. But Abbey Road, loved Abbey Road, but he didn't have Twist and Shout. So I went to my uncle who had some of his other Beatles records. He made me a tape of Magical Mystery Tour. No Twist and Shout, but I mean, Magical Mystery Tours as for like a 5-year-old kid is mind blowing. Strawberry Fields Forever, I'm the Walrus. Like, never heard anything like this in my life. But I'm still hunting for Twist and Shout. So eventually I tracked it down in like a Kmart, like on a cassette tape. It's the first album. Like I didn't even think, to go all the way back. Please Please Me. They, all the tracks were done live. So that's why it has that great energy. But that set me down the path of exclusively listening to the Beatles, like my entire childhood. Like I was a classic rock kid, but I had all the Beatles albums before I even bought another album.
Okay.
Like I was a fanatic.
Yeah. So, and the classic rock has to come from your parents. Like,
absolutely. It was, from the time I was in the womb until I discovered the Beatles, the classic rock was playing.
Just
constantly.
Always playing. Yeah. I mean, I had.
And Gordon Lightfoot.
Yeah. And Gordon Lightfoot. I mean, my dad, Gordon Lightfoot and like Bob Seger, like that's
Seals
what.
and Crofts.
Yeah. It's like, that's what was always playing. It's like, okay. I found my own way away from that. But, so when you found that, now when you go back to that kind of stuff, my big thing is the time machine of which is music, and the mood control and the enhancement of music towards how you're feeling or how it makes you feel. So from the Beatles, you start with the Beatles and I know that's a big journey for a lot of people, is that Beatles is that quintessential band that started them for their love of music. What was your next crazy thing that just like, here's the Beatles, and then you found something else that you didn't think was even in the same realm of that, but was completely different?
I mean, probably the big leap was, I'm not entirely answering the question, but sort of in a way, was when I went from listening to the Beatles and then learning to play guitar and then trying to play the songs. And starting to look at it from a totally different perspective.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it goes from being pure magic, like when someone shows you how to do the card trick.
Yes.
And then it becomes like a math formula.
Yes.
It's not pure magic anymore. Now it's like, oh, like I think I can make one of these. Like I can make a song.
Yeah.
Now that I see like it's chords and then a certain combination of chords, then I can sing over it and then write a riff, and then my friend comes and puts a bass line under it, and then like now we're making a fucking song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that. So for me, it wasn't so much like, I mean, obviously like, when I got a little older, started listening to Zeppelin, fell in love with Zeppelin. Zeppelin, was obsessed with him for a bit. As far as like guitar players were concerned, loved Stevie Ray Vaughan. Huge, like just being able to, just like the look on his face when he was doing what he was doing on the guitar, it was just like, yeah, like that is what he's doing.
Yeah.
like that's the sound that's coming out of that instrument, is that look on his face.
It was in his head too. I mean, he was so good. I mean, he was always a step ahead on playing guitar on the next chord in his head where he was going next.
Yeah.
Than to where he was never satisfied with staying in the same position.
Yep.
So he was always in his head going somewhere next. That's why it was so hard to emulate, because he was.
Yeah, he's the hardest out of all of those types of, like blues players that play a lot of like 12 bar and stuff. Yeah. I think he's the hardest guy to emulate.
Yeah. So do you use any of that for your mood enhancement? Like when you're feeling down, you go back. Do you go back to the Beatles?
Absolutely.
Do you go? Yeah. Do you have a song that you go back to?
I have I have groups of songs. I find that like on long car rides, like if I'm a little sullen and I'm on a long car ride, the early stuff just to sing along to like, I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The poppier stuff. Yeah.
But like if I'm in like a little more of like an introspective mood, like the White Album sends me back to, like when I was in middle school, and, we all know how you're feeling when you're in middle school. It's a weird time.
Yeah. The world's crashing in around you. You're feeling suffocated all the time.
And nobody understands.
Yeah.
The White Album just has so much like wacky shit on it. That was my favorite album at that time. So that kind of sends me back to then. I mean, there are always things that just like, you put a certain record on, it's like, it's not so bad, right? We're doing all right here.
Yeah.
It's like why am I feeling sorry for myself? We're all good. It's fine.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's a lot of things too. I look at stuff, and there's a lot of musicians out there that put out an amazing song, and then they also put out shit. So it's all out there. Beatles, every song the Beatles wrote wasn't a great song.
Sure.
I mean, and people have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And people out there listening to this, you have to be okay. Everything they did wasn't great.
Right.
So just remember that.
Yeah.
When someone that you like puts out a song that you don't like, don't shit on them, because everybody doesn't write perfect songs.
Right.
Not everyone's Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
You can't have every album be the perfect album to go into. So my thing is, what I always try to think about when I do this stuff is like, so for me, mood control is like, I talk a lot about, and people may find through this that I may be a sensitive person, but like sometimes I just need to let out a wail, and I just need to like, I'm in the dumps, and I know the only thing that's going to get me out of the dumps is maybe being further in the dumps.
Yeah.
Do you have, I have like a playlist for myself to just bring me down to like, to be as depressed as I can be. So I know there's only one place to go is up.
Yeah.
Do you have anything like that? Do you?
Yeah, definitely. Bright Eyes, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning.
Okay.
That record is just like, again, like takes me back to a time when I was like kind of feeling sorry for myself, and it was like this time of year and like the summer's ending, and it's just like, yeah, like I need to just kind of need to sit in this depressed state for a little bit. Well, that record, it just has such a sad like.
Well, it's. I mean, Connor seems like a sad guy all the time. I mean, the Bright Eyes Christmas album, like.
I've actually never heard.
You've never heard it? No. Oh my god! If you were
is it exactly
already
what I think it is?
It's exactly what you think it is. If you want to be sadder than you can be around the holidays, put on the Bright Eyes Christmas album.
Splendid.
It'll ruin your Christmas and everyone around you. And that's what I like to do to get people out of my house on Christmas time is I put that on and everybody decides to say, oh my God, what's happening? I'm like, I don't know. I think it's time for everybody to go home if you're not enjoying it because it's going to be on all night. So
that's splendid. I love that.
So would you venture to say that just like the Beatles hands down are your favorite band? Like there's...
they're like my desert island band. Like if I could only listen to one band for the rest of my life, I would pick them. I'm always like a late to the party kind of guy. So I only got into Death Cab, for example, like a year ago.
Okay.
But like when I get into something, I do like a deep dive.
Oh, yeah, you're just all in.
All in.
You're totally pot committed to that band. Exactly. Here we go.
Yeah. But for me to get to that point, I have to really, really like them. So I think I have, I don't know, I've got all their main, key records. Yeah. And I would just like, for like 2.5 months, just listen to them. And they have like so much material that I was just rotating through. And I was like, one day I'm in the mood, I'm in kind of like a shitty mood. So I put the more depressed shit on and, and whatever, or you need to be picked up, put on the popular ones. But, I forget what the question was.
It's all right. This is just, it leads us to somewhere else. So for some people who don't know, Beatles to Death Cab it's a huge jump, huge difference.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in between.
There's a lot of stuff in between there.
But I'm sure Ben Gibbard. Yeah, I'm sure he's a big Beatles fan, right?
I think a lot.
It's in the DNA.
Yeah, a lot of stuff comes from that. I have this rule I live by, and it's I'll probably get some hate mail for this, but I always said like for me when it came to music and the way I grew up listening to it, for me the Beatles were Michael Jackson, Justin Timberlake, and the contrast for me was the Stones. The Stones were Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith and AC/DC. Mm-hmm. So there's that huge difference for music-wise that when you look at it, everything leads to something else. And I know a lot of it is some of my favorite bands. It all derives back to that the two frontmen. It starts with two frontmen who can harmonize and who can sing together. Sure. And that's I was a huge Beach Boys kid. So the harmonies and the melodies, and that's what the Beatles did, and it led me down other roads. It led me to being younger and finding a band called Big Star.
Okay,
that you had two. Basically, it's the same thing. You had two contrasting frontmen. Lennon and McCartney were completely different. I mean, McCartney wrote all the happy pop songs, and all the sad songs is Lennon. And
I don't think that's fair, though. I feel like a lot of people say that,
well,
and I feel like there's some like gritty McCartney shit in there, and there's some like happy-go-lucky Lennon shit in there that kind of just gets like left behind.
Well, Lennon's stuff was all the B-sides anyway, so not a lot of people got to hear it all the time too.
He had a lot of hits, man. Like that you know, that number ones record that they put out like 15 years ago. You don't realize a lot of Lennon tunes on there, man. Like, you know, like "Come Together" was a number one hit. I think "Strawberry Field" is on there. A lot of "Revolution." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of poppy Lennon tunes. I mean, they both did a lot. You know, they could both do a lot of different things. And I think what was cool about that kind of band dynamic is when you have two people in the band that are kind of coming from different places and they're competitive, because they're always competitive, right? Like the Eagles, like the guys in the Eagles, like those guys were so competitive. They're pushing each other. And then when they make their first solo record, they don't have that push, and maybe it's a little like, not that it's bad.
It's not bad. It's
always like, where am I? You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's I thought I was doing this correctly, but maybe I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a great point, is that competitiveness you don't have. And that was some things too, like when I found with Big Star, between Alex Chilton and Chris Bell. You know, Chris Bell is, for you people out there who don't know this, that famous 27 list of musicians who died at 27. Chris Bell was one of them, and he was a foremost writer. I mean, he really is. If you don't, I've never heard of him or Big Star. I encourage you to check them out.
When we're done, you're gonna have to make me a list of all the. I'm like way late to the party, guys. So you're gonna bring up all these things that I'm unfamiliar with.
That's fine. That's why I'm doing this, for bringing up that stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, Chris Bell he wrote this soulful, this meaningful song, and Alex Chilton was a little bit off the wall. They were doing this in the 70s, but he had this punk rock phase to him before punk rock was anything else. Sure. Alex Chilton was like getting into this. I want to be different. I want to do all this stuff. And he went on to do that after, you know, unfortunately Chris Bell passed away, but from a car accident. So it wasn't, you know, no drugs or anything. He'd actually left the band and was driving home from work and fell asleep and, passed away that way. But he's one of those people that I say he's in the 27 list too, and I would put him up there against a lot of people in that 20, you know, the age of 27 that's no longer here.
Was Elliott Smith one of the 27 guys, or was he older?
He was
in his 30s.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, he was older, and you know, I mean, listen, there's a new documentary coming out about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I can't wait to see that.
He's another one. You asked me about someone to put on, like when you're depressed and you just kind of want to stay there.
Oh yeah,
I mean, any Elliott Smith record.
Basically just hit play on
his catalog,
and you're good. But that's what's amazing, is because he stayed there.
Yeah,
you know, like there was
even the last record that they just kind of coddled together after he had passed away.
Yeah,
even that one, I know like some people kind of crap on it a bit, but like it's awesome. Like there's good stuff in there. It's like.
Well, a lot of people don't give it.
He was always in there.
He was always. He never. It was basically how I look at it is he locked himself in a closet with a guitar, and he couldn't move anywhere.
Yeah.
So he just wrote songs.
Yeah.
And he just sang to who was ever on that other side of the door. And
That's a great way of putting it.
It's hard for me to watch things like this that happen to people, because they don't think that anybody loves them. Meanwhile, he's just singing to a door, but he doesn't realize how many people are on the other side of that door.
Yeah,
that are loving what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff it's hard, you know, when you lose an artist like that, someone so talented and so gifted in doing something like that it's just, wow, we're going down a fucking rabbit hole of emotions right now, people. So going from that with your favorite band and stuff, and I like to, you brought up some points there, like with Death Cab too. Like I'm always looking for somebody, and I think sometimes Death Cab falls into the category of an overrated, underrated band. And what I mean by that is people know them for their stuff that was on the radio, or if they ever had a push or some play, but nobody ever got into the deep tracks and the hidden tracks, our namesake. But getting into that kind of stuff. And do you have like anybody else, like, and what I mean when I say the overrated, underrated, there's so many things that you can do about that. We were, you know, prior to coming on this, talking about Taylor Swift.
Right.
And you know, I don't care if I lose street cred, but like her new album, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's really good.
good.
It's really good, and I have to give that to her. Do you like see anything, because we're a little bit different in age, like different eras, and
I'm right on the cusp though. Like you're like a Gen X guy, right?
yeah, Jen.
So I'm like an old millennial.
Okay.
So I kind of have like, I actually kind of appreciate it because like I grew up, like we played outside, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, when I was a kid, you know, we played outside till it was dark and our parents couldn't find us. But like I also had a Super Nintendo and an N64 eventually. You know what I mean? Like I eventually had the internet at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in, you know, when I was 4 years old, we had 8 channels and bunny ears, and then like a few years later I had Nickelodeon. You know what I mean? So like I kind of had it both ways, you know, and got to experience like 2 different generational childhoods.
So did you ever get, so you were on the cusp of like the you know, when grunge was almost basically going out?
Yeah. So my neighbor, growing up, he was like 3-4 years older than me. So he was probably about your, well, how old are you?
Yeah, we're not going to discuss that.
Close,
But
it's
yeah,
close. You look good. You look good. So he was always like pushing me to get into cooler things. Like I said, late to the party, always.
Yeah,
like,
that's fine.
I was like, no, man, I'm listening to the Beatles. Come on. And he's like, how about like, he's like, all right, like, you know, give some Nirvana a chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like Kurt Cobain died in 94.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 10. I was 10 when he died.
Okay.
So like I remember kids in elementary school like had Nirvana T-shirts and shit. But like, did they get it at 10 years old? Did they really get it?
Not many.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember it like being there. But like I probably didn't get into a contemporary record until a friend of mine in middle school gave me Color and the Shape.
Okay.
And I remember being like, I'm not gonna like this, Bob. And I brought it home and put it on, and like I was like, all right, I like the first song. I like the second song. Like I like every song on that album.
Yeah.
Like that's one of those like unskippable records for me where it's like, is it the greatest album of all time? No. But it's, for what it's trying to do, it's so fucking good. So that was probably the first like contemporary, but again, like even then, like that record had probably been out for 2 years. And I'm like, this is the only contemporary thing I'm listening to at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that was a departure for the Foo Fighters on that. Was they were
compared to the first album. It's so focused.
Yeah, it was, you know, the flipping back and forth from a 3-piece to 4-piece to new drummers,
right.
like going back and
Dave
forth.
Like plays most of the instruments on that album, right?
Yeah,
he plays the drums. But then what's cool is that like Taylor came in. Like I don't know what Taylor sounded like before he played with Dave.
Just watch some old YouTube videos of Alanis Morissette concerts.
Oh no, I know, yeah, right?
But you can see, and I was one of those things, like you can actually see.
She had a kick-ass band back then. They put together a grunge band essentially.
Exactly, it's exactly what they did, and Grohl probably saw that and was like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Yeah,
guy?
right, probably,
and was like, gave him a call,
That's
and like
my guy.
that was it. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's a great master of finding talent. You know, you look at people. For me, I've talked about them many times on this podcast. You know, Sunny Day Real Estate. So he started his band with William Goldsmith and Nate Mandel from Sunny Day Real Estate.
Right.
That's how the Foo Fighters started. It was
right.
Dave Grohl from Nirvana and 2 guys from Sunny Day Real Estate.
Was it because like he was buddies with them? Because I know the first record he did just play. It was like a demo, right?
Well, actually, I mean, long story short on that was they actually all recorded. And Dave didn't like the track, and that Goldsmith played on the drums.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of when Goldsmith left the band because he went back and everything that he did was gone, and Grohl was just in the studio doing all the drum takes for him.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why
that was the first record.
That was the first record. Yeah, that was the first record. That's when Sunny Day Real Estate kind of got back together too. Because it was like, and they came under
peripherally heard this story. It's
and
coming back to me.
And when they got back together, they came back under a different name. They were called The Fire Theft.
Okay.
So it was kind of a play on the Fire Theft. If you catch the meaning of Grohl going in and just stealing back everything that somebody else did to start his own thing. But you know, eventually him and Nate made up, and you know,
what do you think of someone who is sort of like the figurehead of a band or whatever, who's a little like grabby like that like they have a vision, but like if you don't quite hit the mark, that they're willing to go and be like, I can just do that myself. Like,
Well,
I kind of have two minds about it.
Well, yeah, it's got to be hard for someone as talented as Grohl to. He wants it his way.
Right.
It's his band. It's his songs. He writes the songs. He really doesn't take. I mean, now he does. He's taken a lot of stuff from Taylor and Shiflett, and he's taken a lot of input from them.
I wonder if it's because he's gotten a lot of shit over the years for being like that.
Maybe
he listens,
yeah, and maybe, and I mean, listen, I love Dave Grohl. Don't get me wrong, but sometimes when I see what he does, for me, is like he does these things, like he did the Sound City documentary, which was really awesome. Yeah. But for me, it was more about Dave Grohl than it was about Sound City. Yeah. It was more about Dave Grohl getting hands on that board from Sound City than it was Sound City.
That was the biggest moment of that movie.
Exactly. So, I mean, like, that's...
Which I understand.
Yeah, I get it. Listen, don't get me wrong. I get it because he was able to tell the story.
Yeah.
And to tell the story of the bands that came through there.
And probably through his eyes, he's probably like this board, like, has, has magic in it.
Yeah, exactly. Every album that came off of it. Yeah, exactly. Every album.
Like if a documentary is going to have a MacGuffin, like it's the Neve board. In that film.
And for me, I don't know what's going on in his head. He could probably be pissing in his pants that he's getting this board, but
I think he was.
I think he was too. It's just sometimes it comes off differently, and it's a shame. I mean, because it was probably hard for him, especially when Foo Fighters came out. I'm sure it was hard for him to just be like, yeah, I'm not the Nirvana guy anymore.
Yeah.
Like, he had that
from
moniker.
What I understand, he did kind of like try, like, that's why he was like, it's not Dave Grohl band. It's some kooky name that, like,
something totally different.
A little bit. Yeah.
So, would you consider them? See, I can't consider them because I just think, for me, they are our classic rock. I said it a couple episodes ago.
Yeah,
like the Foo Fighters are like our era's classic rock.
Yeah,
like, that's what they are.
They're like our Eagles.
Yeah, that's really that's what it is. I mean, that's a great comparison.
I don't have any friend. No, that's not true. But like, they're kind of one of those bands that, like, I don't know many people whose favorite band is the Foo Fighters, but everyone likes them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, and I don't think
maybe that's not fair, but like, do you understand what I'm saying?
No, it is. It's absolutely fair. I mean, I had to comment on the first episode about a band called Rival Sons, and I always say, I mean, my big thing with them is, and if you've never had a chance to listen to them,
another one that you have to put on the list for me.
The Rival Sons are, I mean, when you go see them, it's honestly like you're seeing a band that was different than everybody else in the 60s. They just played amazing rock and roll, and I always say, they're not your favorite band, but they're better than your favorite band. Like that was my line to them, because I saw them and I was like, they're not my favorite band.
Right.
But they're better than my favorite band. So ipso facto, they should be my favorite band, but they're not, but they're just better.
Right.
And Foo Fighters are kind of like that way too. Like, they're probably better than most people's favorite bands, but for some reason or another, they're just not your favorite band.
Yeah.
You might not have that connection to it either. Which is hard. It's having that connection. You brought up that thing and the unskippable of an album.
Yeah.
And I love unskippable albums. This is where this whole premise started, was we were arguing about albums and what was unskippable. And I mean, you already threw one out there. I'm going to ask you for another one. And I always pull off the table, Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. Everything is held to that standard.
Yeah.
Everything's held to that standard.
It's like a greatest hits album. Really.
It really is. Like, their first album was a greatest hits album. I think that's one of the best things I've heard in all the music that I listen to and watching and reading everything. For them too, like, you have your whole life to make your first album.
Yeah, I talk about this all the time. Absolutely.
I mean, you have your whole life to make your first album, and then you get signed, and then
6 months to write your second album.
Listen, we need something else to get out there, and it's really hard for people to
That's why, like, when people
that.
have a kick-ass second record, or if the second record is better than the first one, it's like, fuck you.
Yeah. Well, they call it the sophomore slump. And I just say it's not the sophomore slump.
Which is totally understandable.
Yeah, you're being rushed.
Right.
They're being rushed to do something.
I don't know how you feel about Coldplay. But like, I think their first two albums are excellent.
Parachutes and the other one.
Cold Rush of Blood.
Yeah, Cold Rush of Blood.
The third one just didn't hit me. I was just like, this, I don't feel anything when I listen to this album. And then I just kind of lost track of them. And then, like, they pop up, they have monster hits, and you're like, a good song here and there. But, like, I haven't purchased a Coldplay record since I bought the third one. Yeah. I just kind of lost interest.
I'm 100%, if you look at the CDs of the records I have, I don't have one after the third one.
I have the first three, and I think I have the
The Viva?
I've got that like on iTunes.
Yeah.
It's on my old laptop. But that's an example of I thought the second record kicked ass.
Yeah.
Where I was like, man, like they like, and I was, and it's probably why the third record didn't hit me was because I was like, if the second record is that compared to the first record, I'm not going to say that it was better, but it was just as good, and they evolved.
Yeah.
I was really anticipating the third record. And for me personally, like it was just boring to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like for me, it didn't, because the second record is so interesting. Like all of the textures and the arrangements and
sounds
like
and
where they used strings and like the percussion and like the janky piano on some tunes.
Chris Martin really got into piano on that second album, and it changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it changed a lot of their sound, but the songs were still amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the writing's probably just as good on the third record.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't pulling me in the same way. And probably if I had just like been stubborn and listened to it, because I'll do that sometimes. I'll get, oddly enough, like how I got into Elvis Costello, my dad was like, you have to like Elvis. Like if you're going to write songs, you have to fucking like Elvis Costello, you nerd. So he just got me like the Monster Greatest Hits album. And it's like 20 something songs on it. And like I listened to it for a bit and I was like, it's not like, I don't get it. And he's like, you will. Just keep listening to it. And then like it just hit me one day. Again, it was like a long car ride.
Yeah.
And I just listened to the whole thing. And then like near the end of this collection, I Want You starts. And it has the little, it's like a weird tune because it starts off with the acoustic thing.
Okay.
It's like, oh my baby, baby. That like low Elvis Costello thing. And then like it cuts. And the big fucking E minor chord with the Bigsby tremolo comes in. I want you. Yeah. And it was just like, oh, I get it now. Now I get Elvis Costello. Yeah. And now like I'm a huge Elvis Costello fan. It took me like really digging into it.
I have that rule of 5 I run by. I have the rule of 5 when I get an album because I've made the mistake many times before where I've gotten an album and I've listened to it and I've hated it. And I've gone back to it a little later. And I'm like, yeah, no, I still fucking hate it. But that's because in my head, I still remember listening to it and hating it. So I'm already going into, I already hate it. Why am I listening to it again?
Yeah.
So I do this little thing where on a long car ride, that's where I listen to it. When I'm, say, mowing the lawn, I'll listen to it.
Like the best
or
way to do it.
I'm sitting down here in the studio. I'll just put it on and I'll listen to it softly in the background. And then it'll, all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I was an asshole. I was wrong.
My bad, guys.
Yeah, I apologize.
That's not me.
Yeah, I apologize. One of my favorite bands of all time, I'll never forget, their third album comes out. And I was living in Georgia when I was in the military. And I rushed to the store, Face to Face's new album comes out. And I'm like, they just got signed to a label. This is going to be crazy. Oh my God. I heard a rumor they're going to be on the Mortal Kombat soundtrack. I'm like, this is a hardcore punk band. And I buy the album. I get to the 5th song on the album. Driving home, I took the CD out and I threw it out on I-95 because I was like, "What is this?" Now, for me, who wasn't creating music, I just didn't understand. Like I didn't get it. And now, if I go put that album on, it's probably me maturing as well. You know, you mature to other things. Your ears like different tones, you know. As a kid, I was like the punk and, you know, and all that.
I feel like that about pretty much all 80s music. Like when I was a kid, like it was the music that annoyed me as a kid. Mm-hmm. And then like as I get older, I'm like, fuck, Tears for Fears is awesome. Like what was I thinking? You know what I mean?
Well, and that's the kind of stuff too. Like on our first show, you know, we were talking about The Cure or whatever. And you know, I was very lucky because I had a sister who was 4 years older than me, and The Cure was huge, and she just listened to it all the time.
Right.
So it just,
and you're like, guys, The Cure is awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm like,
no.
come on, dude. Like, what are you talking about? And I was,
oops, they are.
Yeah.
Awesome.
At the same time that I was listening to, you know, crazy punk rock, the Sex Pistols and all this kind of stuff, sure, I was listening to The Cure and the Psychedelic Furs, and I was listening to that stuff, and it was. For me, I was like, wow. And I think that's what broadened my horizons to be able to be like, listen, I can like whatever I like. Right. Yeah. You can't tell me what I'm going to like. And that's when I no longer listen to the radio. I would never turn the radio on. I would always have a tape or a CD or something. That's what I'm listening to. I don't know what you guys are doing.
It's funny how, like, when you're a kid, like, especially like middle school, high school, you know, when you have the posters on your wall and you wear the T-shirts and like, back when we were going to school, everyone had a Walkman, right?
Yeah.
And be like, oh, what you listening to? And I'd be like, the Blues Brothers soundtrack. And I'd get my ass kicked. But like, so everyone always wanted to be listening to like, you know, the new Green Day record or whatever, you know,
the
like
cool stuff.
Yeah, whatever was cool at the time. So like for you to be like, you know, like you said, like, oh, like I'm listening to The Cure. Like there was pressure to like certain things like in your little circles. You know what I mean? So like it's cool when you get to a point, and it happens for some people earlier than others. Some people don't get there at all. But if you get to a point, like you said, where you can just be like, I can like whatever, like I fucking love Taylor Swift. Fuck you. Yeah. You know, like I'm a guitar player. I play in a rock band, and I love Taylor Swift. Yeah. Like fuck off.
Listen, I had to admit to my wife the other day. I'm like, all right. I'm like, I don't ever have the radio on in my car, but it was before I plugged my phone in, and there's a song on the radio. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And then it's Machine Gun Kelly. The song's called Bloody Valentine. I'm like, fuck, I'm not supposed to like Machine Gun Kelly. Right. And in my head, I go, wait, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Like,
you have
it's
to
a
check
great
yourself.
Yeah, like I did. Like
that voice is always
exactly.
In there.
I had to like stop myself from beating the shit out of myself about something and be like, wait, it's a great fucking song.
Yeah.
So what if I think he's a loser? He just put out a great song.
Right.
That's, you know, and that's the thing where I think music brings in so much different stuff, and it lends itself to, for me to not be ashamed to go to my record collection or someone to go through any of my music that I have and be like, oh my God, why do you have this? And I just go, well, let's sit down and listen.
Right.
And you'll find out why I have this.
Yeah.
You know,
and
sure. And people judge too quickly, especially with musical taste. Like, you know, we were having conversation of people being overproduced and just having too many hands in the bucket and too many, you know, it's like being a minaret.
Where do you draw the line at overproduced? Do you think it's too many cooks in the kitchen, or it's just doing too much to something?
I think it's telling somebody not to be themselves.
Yeah,
I think it's telling someone like Lady Gaga to wear a meat suit to be outlandish when she can sit down behind a piano and fucking blow everybody away. That's when I think that someone needs to, either somebody mentioned it to her that maybe she should try to be outlandish instead of being the star that she is.
My understanding of her whole situation is that like she was like a singer-songwriter, piano player, and was awesome at it.
But nobody wanted it.
And it wasn't catching, and she's just like, all right, how about this? How about I'm going to act like a jackass, get your attention that way, and then circle back around, and then be like, oh, look, I'm fucking awesome. You know what I mean? And we were talking earlier about how like there are artists who are like young pop artists who are, you know, overproduced or whatever, and then they're able to break through because they are too talented, and I guess they have a modicum of control where they can push through.
Once they become a certain amount of popular, now they control the stick.
Sure.
You know, that lever is no longer, you know, and I feel bad for people, you know, and especially like younger artists that turn out to be a little nuts. You know, you get the Justin Biebers of the world. Listen, I don't own a Justin Bieber song, but I'm sure some of the shit he's done has been pretty good. But
that's,
you know,
one of those
he's been pulled in 100 different directions as a kid, and he can't find himself, and he walks on the street, he looks like the guy who fixed my toilet 2 weeks ago because he's
comparable
strung
to,
out
like, to kid actors too, like, you know, the Macaulay Culkins of the world who just like get pulled through the ringer, you know, with all the nonsense.
That's the Nickelodeon stars, you know. It's nice to
Disney
see
Channel,
all
those kids,
to see some of them come out the other side, like a Justin Timberlake. His talent just outshone everybody else, and it was, you know, it's unfortunate. It was like, oh, you know, what's this one doing in the band now? What's it? Well, listen, cream rises to the top, and that's just, he was better than everybody else.
Right.
Like, and you look at, you know, Backstreet Boys, nobody really came out of that because no one was a standout star.
Yeah.
And
that probably was a situation where they were just kind of created in a lab for all those bands were. I mean, they did not that any of them were organic, but like I think some have like a little bit more organic DNA than others. You know what I mean? I know like NSYNC didn't like, you know, start out in the garage.
No, yeah, they didn't know what I'm saying. They didn't start out doing dance moves in the garage and all of a sudden realize they could sing.
Wouldn't that be awesome if there was like a kick-ass boy band that just started out like we're like a hardcore boy band, like we're a garage boy band.
Yeah.
And they're like totally DIY and they make the record.
New Kids on the Block.
I guess
New Kids on the Block were, Kids.
Right, so there is one.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we're going down some crazy shit, which leads me into my next thing. Do you have something that sometimes how I know we're getting older, so you can check yourself, but do you have a guilty pleasure that you're just like, I don't know why I like this. I probably shouldn't like it, but I'm absolutely love it. And if somebody got into my car and heard this playing, they would just look at me with absolute awe on their face.
I know what you're saying, but I feel like I don't feel like that about any of the things I listen to, because I feel the way you feel, which is like, who gives a shit? Like, I like what I like. You know what I mean? Maybe like there would be some people who would be surprised if like they opened up my phone and, you know, looked at my playlist and saw, like I said, like Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish, like got a lot of like poppy, like radio poppy stuff in there. But like these artists they're good writers and they're good singers and like sometimes I like to bop around from something like that to like some classic rock stuff or some singer-songwriter stuff. I mean, I remember like when I was, you know, again, like middle school, high school, like it wasn't cool that I had a couple Sheryl Crow records, you know?
Okay.
So, but like those first few Sheryl Crow records are really
that's
good.
fine. So I'm going to put that as your guilty pleasure, because Sheryl Crow to me is one of those things where I'm just like, I never understood it. I didn't get it. It's one of those things I tried to. I remember I had a sister.
So the first record, like she didn't contribute as much to. It was kind of like just like jamming with friends, and then she put it out. I think the second record and the third record are really fucking good. I think they're really good singer-songwriter records, and she produced them, and she did all the arrangements, plays a lot of the instruments on them. To me, like I can put those records on still, and I'm just like, I feel like these sound like classic rock records to me.
Yeah,
you know. And I think the singles are probably the weakest songs on those albums, you know?
Yeah, well, that's where I get to, where I always go back to that overrated, underrated. Like the singles that came out was what everybody knows, and that was popular. And that's like the overratedness of those songs kept people away from the other stuff that was on that
and
album.
Again, and it was she was like a sort of like an adult contemporary. Like she was on like VH1 a lot. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it was like, you know, my parents listen to this and they think it's cool because it's contemporary. Yeah. Whereas like it wasn't cool for me.
It was 106.7. It was easy listening with the rock vibe behind it.
Right. And you know, it would be on Z100 also. Yeah. But like
because it
had a little more of like an adult
because the record labels were paying the DJs to play it. You know, one of my guests said, you know, I thought it was the radio's job to find the good music and give it to me when it wasn't.
When did that start? Was that like something that started to creep in the 70s where like A&R guys would be like, I'll give you XYZ?
Oh yeah, they were exactly. I mean, that's what it was. I mean, and it didn't lay credence to a lot of bands that were out there in that late 70s, you know, late 60s, early 70s to the, you know, there's so many bands that people have never heard of that are better than all the bands that people heard of from that time. I talked about one a couple weeks ago, Slade, a British band. I mean, they outsold the Beatles in the UK in the 70s. I mean, no one's ever heard of them.
Right.
And it's because no one ever put them on the radio because it's the Beatles. We're going to play their music regardless. But there's some big star, I mentioned him earlier. People didn't give them a chance because they named their first record #1 album.
Right.
So, you know, and that kind of takes away.
Something like it's kind of timing too. Something like that would have played really well in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
Like Blink 182 did
absolutely.
That. That was hilarious.
Exactly. They'd be like, oh, this is great. They're like, they're so full of themselves and this is a great, you know, this album's amazing. But that back in that time, it was a lot of people, just whoever had a record label and whoever had more A&R guys and, you know, publicists would just go out and say, play this, play this, play this, play this, play this. And that's how they got popular. Yeah. And all that really good music, you know, went away. Like a lot of people don't listen to the blues, but the Rolling Stones are a blues band. Like they don't realize, you know, and Elvis Presley stole from the blues, you know, all that blues movement.
I mean, really all the great rock music from the 50s. It's, you know, it's like it's the blues with, you know, with a little more of like a country rhythm.
Yeah, a little bit of country and a little, let's say, paler person,
right? Yeah,
you know, playing it, which you know,
which made it more palatable.
Exactly
for the masses.
Exactly for the masses. And then you go back and, you know, one of my favorite records I ever got, and I didn't know what it was, and I'm like, what is this? I was like Lightning Hopkins. What is this? I didn't know what it was. It's probably the greatest blues album, greatest blues guitarist I've ever heard in my life.
What era was this from?
Blues Hopkins was like 40s, 50s,
Okay.
and then into the
But leading into
yeah, like
rock
he
and roll.
was he was the man. I mean, but nobody ever heard of him.
Add that to the list.
Yeah.
I'm serious. You have to make me a list.
Yeah, no, I will. I'm gonna. What I'm doing, I'm compiling all the stuff that I do to just make playlists for people on
that's
Spotify
awesome.
under the Hidden Tracks moniker. So people can just be like, "What the fuck is he talking about?" And I'll give you
That's
the perfect
like,
songs.
Yeah, that's like a cool, like, kind of like a tag to the show. Actually, is that like you could be like, "Oh, by the way, like all the shit that I mentioned that you've never heard of, like check out this playlist." And
we're working on
great.
one of the biggest things is that's actually harder to do than it is to do what we're doing, sitting here doing right now.
I can imagine.
Because I'm one of those people that I'm a perfectionist, so I have to go through every single song 10 times to be like, okay, so this is the one.
And you also have to listen to the transition from one song to the other to make sure that that's right.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's taking a long time. My wife keeps yelling. She's like, listen, you're doing great doing this. I like it. She goes, you need to keep doing that playlist you talk about. And it's kind of like how I try to start this podcast. I've been talking about it forever until I just got a swift kick in the ass and people made me do it. So got past that guilty pleasure and learning about new stuff, and you're here and you're learning and you're telling me to make you list. Do you have any new music? Like, is there something new that like you just caught on to recently that
I've listened to?
Yeah.
Not really. Like I said, like, always late to the party. No, that's why I'm going to walk out of here with a list.
All right, that's great. So my next one, because we're coming in on our time here, and I end every show. It's called our Weekly Threes. You give your 3 bands or artists that you're currently listening to because you drove here, and I'm sure you had music on the radio, or 3 things that you've listened to recently that you just want people to hear and listen. It can be yourself too. Can
I just, because I actually listen to,
everybody goes through their Spotify playlist now.
Right.
Like everybody's like, oh my God, I don't remember. I got to go through my playlist.
I listen to a lot of, artists who I know.
Okay.
Like I really like you had Dylan on. I really like the Milwaukees. Like I really like the Gay Blades and Ready Made Breakup and anything that Paul Rosevere has done over the years. My friends Catherine and Byrne, they have a project called Burn and the Brights. She's Byrne has been kind of doing a thing where rather than put out a record, she's just been putting out singles like under this umbrella, sort of. Okay. Like, but it's not really like a record. Yeah. And the first,
I got to limit you to 3, so let's knock that down to 3.
Okay.
Because we have to post it. We do our weekly threes.
All right, so I'll do. So you're gonna do Burn of the Brights.
Burn of the Brights.
Paul Rosevere.
The Paul Rosevere, yeah.
And since they have a new record out, let's go the Milwaukees.
The Milwaukees? Yeah. Okay. That's hey, listen, somebody else has used the Milwaukees already too. And listen, the album is fantastic.
We are in West Milford too.
Well, so. Yeah. So the ode to the Milwaukees.
For sure.
So my 3 for this week are a band called Basement. They were, I guess we're going to call them, we're on the 3rd wave of emo now in the world. They're amazing. They're English. They're from Ipswich in England. Great band. Next band is The Lonely Forest. Unfortunately, they're no longer a band together, but great band out of Washington, The Lonely Forest. The guy's voice, when you hear his voice, it'll blow your mind. And then the one I'm going to end with is because I find myself constantly putting it on, and it's The Darkness. Nice. I've had an opportunity to see them so many times, and I've always said, you want to see a professional rock band perform, you go see The Darkness. They're amazing. I know everybody thought it was a joke when Howard Stern listened to him and had him on the show, but you're only hearing that song, I Believe in a Thing Called Love. I'm going to tell you, throw that song out and then go listen to everything else they ever did. They're an amazing band, and they're on my 3 for this week. So we are coming in our time. I wanted to say, Mr. Adam Streicher, thank you so much for being here this week. If you guys are out there, check it out. Look up We Are Dogs. And I'm being told that some new stuff could be coming within the next year. So be on the lookout for that. Again, we are the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Google Podcast, and iTunes. Please download us. Make sure you download us. 5-star reviews. This is how we're going to get this thing moving. Write a little review, even if you want to give a 5-star review and write "sucks" in the review line. I mean, that's completely up to you. Just make sure it's 5 stars. You can reach us at myhiddentracks99 at Gmail. We have myhiddentracks.com. That's the website. We put up a bunch of pictures of what we're doing. Twitter is at myhiddentracks1. Instagram is hiddentracks99. And Facebook is Hidden Tracks. So I want to thank you again, Adam. Thank you so much for being here. And everyone out there, go out, have a great time.